when my grandpa got sick, we started to spend a lot more time with him, as one would, and started to learn a lot more about him. He would break his back picking up unsightly weeds. He loved to talk about his bird feeder, the type of bird food he used, the birds he saw, the nests that were built, and all with my dad, who loved the exact same things. But mostly I learned that with the exception of birds, Grandpa was a pretty quiet person, as has been said. And when he spoke, it was either a surprisingly dirty or a risky joke, or something very important and sincere and smart. And last summer, he gave all of his grandchildren short letters that had proverbs that Uncle Michael was talking about. And each only had a quote. And when it was my turn to receive mine, he called me into the living room and he told me how much he loved me. And he was crying, which of course made me cry. And he handed me the letter, and it read, Gillian, perfection is unattainable, but worth striving for. And for those who don't know, that basically describes me to a T. I'm a clinical perfectionist to a fault. And when I heard what my cousins and siblings' letters said too, it became very clear that while Grandpa didn't talk much, he really listened. And he chose quotes that meant something to each of us and that described who we were as people. And he not only loved us, although he did tell my parents not to have a third child. But anyways, he knew us because he listened to us describe our lives, sitting on the front porch or the hammock or the table or the back patio. Although probably didn't listen to us on the hammock because we told him to stop 100 times for fear of being thrown off when he was pushing us. Or he listened to our parents talk about us. But he always listened because he cared so much about his family. And that's something I'm always going to remember about him, and that I really noticed with these letters. And finally, I'll conclude with a risky joke in true Richard Ansell fashion. As I'm sure many of you know, Grandpa and his 3 brothers bought a house in the Berkshires that all the Ansells used to gather for Thanksgiving and vacations. And the house was named Jaradara. Jack Ansell, Robert Ansell, David Ansell, and Richard Ansell. And when my Uncle David passed away a couple years ago, I said to Grandpa, well, I guess it's Jarrah now. And Grandpa loved the joke. And I didn't want to say it to anyone else for fear of offending the family. But Grandpa took the risk, of course, and announced to the entire house that now, randomly at dinner, we are Jarrah. And he completely butchered the joke. But I'll redeem him today and officially say that for Thanksgiving this year, we will be traveling up to Jarrah. And Grandpa, I'm really gonna miss you, and I love you so much. Wow, you made me cry. That's hard to do. So, I wanted to start by reading the text I sent to Grandpa before I took off on the plane to fly home for this. I sent this text because most of you knew it would be the last thing I would ever say to Grandpa, but I wanted to let him know the little things I appreciated and feel closure for myself with him, as well as be able to show my love. Here's the text. I'm not really saying goodbye because I'm hopeful I'll see you when I get home, but I just wanted you to know how much I love you and appreciate you. I'll never forget all the gory pics you showed me at work and how good of a listener you are. I loved coming every weekend for dinner, and I can't say enough how much I love you. I also just put salt on everything because of you, so there's that too. Hugs. I was lucky enough to be able to spend the past year and a half with Grandpa, most weekends having dinner, and I truly look forward to that time. It became a time to cherish Grandpa and reflect on the good times and memories, rather than freak out as a family or watch him freak out about the undetermined time ahead, which I knew was exactly what he wanted. That period of time allowed me to reflect on my personal memories and things I love about Grandpa, and I figured that's how I wanted this speech to go. So here's a compiled list of some of my favorites. Vicious hammock pushing and flipping. Posing in Lululemon on Father's Day. When I asked him what his favorite snack was, and he said it was ice. Visiting his office and exploring all of his cases, as well as, of course, the gory pictures. How particular he was. Driving up their driveway at home and without doubt knowing he would be sitting in his chair with a pipe or a cigarette. The way he could be so quiet during a conversation and take it all in, and then out of nowhere make a comment that showed how well he was listening. His hugs and butt taps. I have this home video of me and Dara as a baby in that baby blue swing, and Grandpa just kept twisting it all around until it would get to the top, and then it would eventually unravel, and I would go flying in circles. And all you could hear is me hysterically laughing. And I really love that video and the joy it oozes. It also makes me think about the fact that he really would never say no to a swing or hammock push, and that was everything to us as kids. I really do feel like it was hard to be unhappy around Grandpa. I truly do feel there was something about the energy exuded that was calming, peaceful, present, and just happy that made you feel like things were okay and you could feel those emotions as well. My grandpa was always so supportive of me through my ups and downs, and that meant more to me than I can even say. Before I left for California, he told me I'll see you soon, and that was very calming to me because, he was right, because I did see him many more times, and that was a blessing. It's now sad to not have those dinners with him at the head of the table, a driveway pull-up I'm used to, a last hammock hurrah, or him at Jaradara. It's sad to know that he won't be around the next times I'm in New Jersey. But Grandpa, I love you, and I'll miss you, and I do miss you.
I don't know what I was thinking putting this on my phone. I watch all young people put it on their phone and not on paper, and now my kids even have it on paper, so that was probably a mistake. And I can't see. Those are all good points. Fair. So I was thinking today, as everybody was speaking, that many of those feelings and experiences people had, I felt were just for me. I always felt like they were just experiences I had, and I never even really talked about them because they just felt personal. I've known Richard for nearly 30 years, and one of my first memories, or the first things I remember about my father-in-law, is when I came to ask his hand, my wife's hand in marriage, and I came to his office, and of course he knew why I was coming. And I thought about it, Mitchell said something about his experience when he sent you to the Planned Parenthood case. And Richard, I will never forget it, because Richard's words were, "It's about time." And I thought then, and I have thought about it for all the time we've been married, that those words were not by accident, that they were words of welcome, that we're happy you're here, that you're a part of the family, and the saying it in the words, "It's about time," was the best way in 3 words to say, we love you, we're happy, you're a part of the family, you're in, we're all good. And I remember that all the time, because I hope I'll be as good one day with my kids, and that welcoming, because it has stuck with me for all of this time. He has treated me like a son from day one. And I think he's treated me the same way he's treated John and Michael from the minute I joined the family. He kissed and hugged me every time I saw him, which made me feel very comfortable, because that is how I was raised in my family. And I felt, Margaret and I spoke so often, especially early in our marriage, about how similar our families were in the kinds of things that really mattered. And that was really one of them for me. Richard really created a true sense of home. And early when we were literally married, I think a week or two, I remember we came to Richard and Debbie's house, and then we were leaving, and Margaret started crying. And Margaret's not a crier, much like you've heard from everybody, but she started crying. And I said, "Well, why are you crying?" And she said, "I think that I'll never go home again." And I said, "Well, you have a home now. We have a new home, and we're a home." And it took me very many years, and I think my kids have expressed it, I think everybody's expressed it, to know that Richard always had a home. He created a home. He created a home environment. And that never resonated with me until many years later, that I understood why Margaret really felt that she might be leaving home. And it wasn't the place, it was the relationships, it was the feeling, and it was the emotion of knowing that somebody was in your corner all the time. He went out of the way to treat my family as his family. I think my sister would tell you that the same thing others have said. She stayed over their house many times. She sat on their porch many times. She had her own relationship with Richard and Debbie, which I thought was just so amazing, that he took my family, and at that level, she brought her dog, she hung out for the weekend. She almost didn't really end up spending time with us, because she had such a nice time at Richard and Debbie's. And it was very meaningful to me to know that that was important to him. Through our marriage, good times and bad times. One of the things I can say about Richard is there was never any judgment at all. He gave brief advice, like don't have a third kid. That was it. It was said once, it was never said again. He never harped on anything. There were never any strings attached to anything he offered or did. It was sincere, it was immediate, it was just when you needed it. And he really, one of the things I really took to heart was he really let us raise our family. He never tried to be our immediate family. He never tried to correct Margaret or I when we went to do anything, when we thought about how we would raise our children, or any of the different times that I'm sure he could have had an opinion about our bad parenting. He never did. And many people have talked about how present he has been and so many things. I felt like at every celebration in our family, whether it was our wedding, whether it was the bar and bat mitzvahs, whether it was any holiday, he was always present. He was never half there. He wasn't one of those people that ever looked at his phone. He wasn't engaged in the corner with one person the whole time. He was involved with everybody in the room. He made sure that everybody was important in that room. And I think that is a real skill, and for Richard, I don't think it was a skill. I think it was just very natural for him. But it felt super important to me that he understood that any of the activities our immediate family had were as important as any he could ever be at. And that was really special. And it felt very personal to me. And I suspect many people feel that way. But as his son-in-law, I felt it was very personal, and it was important to him that I always felt like an immediate family member. Debbie always says to me and to Margaret that Margaret married her father. And while I don't, mostly that's the tripping, the falling, the cars, and all of the bad stuff, not the good stuff. But, and the birds. But it was a compliment. It's still a compliment. It's a really big compliment to me, and it means an awful lot to hear that, and it always has. And for that, I will really, really miss him. I really will. Thank you.